you know, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And I think our friendship really began when we would have taken someone down to our seats and we'd pass each other at the back of stalls and we would say something a little sassy about that performance.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely a bonding over not so much what we would do better, but just realizing that I think we both had the same kind of ideas when it came to script, came to character, came to ways of portraying things on stage. And then just went from there.
So how long have you been ushers in the industry that you work in?
I have been an usher for almost 5 years now. And I actually used to work at the venue that we're going up at Theatre Works. So it's a gorgeous full circle moment of having worked at the venue and then going up as a performer, which happens a lot more than people would think.
Yeah.
There is not that big of a line between us at the front of house and on stage.
No, there's not actually. No. There's not. It's actually quite a nice little theatre, isn't it?
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Except for the parking. we won't even go there. The parking is diabolical.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is anywhere. Like, that's always the magical hope that you have, is that there's a car park near the theatre. There's a theatre that we are actually going to in Sydney, taking this show to. It's adjacent to a car park.
Right.
And people love it.
It makes it much easier,
well,
doesn't
people talk more about the car park than what they've seen, which is always good to know.
Oh, that's great.
I know, it's always a wonderful indictment of the show. But yeah, I think exactly like Eddie's right. Like every usher that takes you to your seat is just the next potential, star of stage and screen, behind, on stage. And it's sometimes wonderful to be around. Not always, when sometimes you're kind of watching a show that you're like, I want to do that.
Well, and sometimes shows that people have auditioned for and gotten quite far into the rounds of. You know, we have an usher who, I think they were top 4 for one of the roles in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Oh, really?
Have worked it for about a year and a half since that, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes you get to, you almost get to see your missed opportunity and be a part of it. But also sometimes it's great. Sometimes watching the shows again and again and again, it reminds you of two things: that potentially shows shouldn't be seen more than 5 times, and shows...
Why is that?
Well, when you get to your 179th show,
right,
of the same thing, you start to really pick the holes in the story, and you kind of start to really see the problems, and the magic just goes. But it does help you to remember that each audience, it's their first time, and when you're a performer, you have that grace. But when you are doing a long haul show, you can't just go to autopilot, because there is someone in the room that will see, and it is the usher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, because they get to see them every day.
Oh, if you ever want to know how a show is going, you just ask an usher.
I'm going to go, and I'm going to ask the usher when I come and see you guys.
Oh, do. Please do. I want to hear. Oh, that'll be the best feedback I'll get all season.
It'll more than likely be me ushering as well as producing and directing.
Okay, that's all right. I'll say, Gavin, what do you think about the show? Do you reckon these actors are okay?
Oh, I'll be very honest. I'll probably say no, and then the next day there'll be a new set.
Yes.
I'll fire them all.
You'll fire them all, and then you'll be in... real mischief, wouldn't you?
I'll come and watch that the next night.
Yes.
But do you find some people come and, as you said, they see it 5 times or whatever, there's obviously something that they see in that they can see in themselves.
Oh, I mean, there are absolutely shows that I would happily sit through again and again and again and again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And of course, seeing a show that I go as an audience member is very different from seeing it as an usher. Often as an usher, you're wanting the show to end for very different reasons, because you want to get home and go to bed, or have dinner, or, it is work, and work isn't always enjoyable. But when you go as a patron and you're sitting there in the space, no matter how big or how small, no matter how grand or dingy it might be, you've gone there for a reason, and to be entertained and to be swept up. And you know, those are the times where I've happily gone to a show. I think a housemate and I, when we were at uni, the year above us, they did the Laramie Project, and I saw that 11 times.
11.
Yeah. And
How many holes did you pick in it?
None, because I was wailing. It was at a point in my life where the story of it was quite effective. It really started my thinking around queer injustices and realising that there was still a lot of work in the wider society that needed to happen. It was also a very interesting play in the way that it was constructed. It was probably my first experience with verbatim theatre outside of a rehearsal room or a teaching type environment. And and it was also, I think, the first time, without realising it, seeing a group of actors really find a script that they fell in love with and committed to and cared about, and watching it again and again and again. It didn't matter where I sat, it didn't matter how I was feeling that day, it was always going to give me the same reaction, because everything about that show just swept me up. And I knew the people on stage and cared deeply about them. They were lovely people. They were the year above me. But I think it wasn't so much, you know, the stars aligned, but it was just something about that play at that point in time just made me want to go and see it, and nothing else.
And nothing else. Wow. Have you experienced something like that, Eddie?
Oh yeah. I have absolutely had shows that, you know, it feels like sometimes someone has made like your dream ice cream flavor just for you.
Right.
Which is brilliant. And I think I'm actually really, really lucky, because I think this is the first time ever where, as an actor, I can confidently say that I'm performing one of those shows at the moment. That 100 Words for me is a show that from the very beginning, I read that script and I was like, this has everything that I love about theatre. It had the type of people I love to play and talk about. It had the type of words I like to throw around. It had everything in there. It felt like it had been crafted just for me, and I cannot believe how lucky I am that I actually get to perform it, because, you know, as an actor, sometimes you'll have a play on the dream wish list for years before you get a chance to perform it, and maybe, you know, never. Because there's just so much alchemy that has to go into the right place and the right time in theatre, and especially casting. So I'm kind of living the dream. 100 Words kind of is one of those shows for me.
Lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucky. So tell us a little bit about the story of this play. What's it called?
So it's 100 Words for Snow. It's written by a wonderful British playwright, Taddy Hennessy. So this is the Australian premiere, which is very exciting. And the story is all about Rory, a young teenager who experiences grief at a rather formative time in her life, and then decides that they want to write their own narrative of their experiences. As in, they're at that age when they're being still a little bit unseen and treated a little bit with kid gloves.
How old are they?
About 15.
About 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's at that age where...
A crucial age. Yes.
But I think people underestimate I think a lot of people confuse independence with rebelliousness. And there's nothing wrong with rebelliousness, but I think at that point in time, rebelliousness is seen as a negative thing rather than as something to be celebrated.
They just want to be seen and heard, don't they?
Absolutely.
And so if they're not being heard or seen, then they're going to make a noise and they're going to rebel. so that someone takes notice of them.
Exactly.
And this is quite a loud noise that Rory makes. There is
Ooh.
a stolen credit card involved,
Ooh.
and a couple international flights.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Okay. I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be fun. So, what part do you play, Eddie?
I play the only part, so this is a one-person show. So
Oh my
it is-
goodness.
Yeah, it is me on stage the entire time.
How long does it go
talking.
for?
Oh, 75 minutes.
75 minutes you're on stage
I am.
by yourself, or are there people coming and going, or are there sort of people in the background, or what's happening?
There's definitely a few other people spoken about, and you know, Rory kind of takes on their role a little bit as well. But it is me pretty much on my lonesome, but I do have a beautiful sound design supporting me as well, and like composition and underscoring. Oh, it really does make you feel like you've got someone on stage giving you a helping hand for sure.
Do you get nervous?
A little, yeah. I still get nervous when I perform, for sure. I care about this thing so deeply, and I want to do well at it so badly. But I think over the years, it's merged into a more just aggressive excitement. Yeah.
Because you've had to wait so long to actually get out there and perform it.
Exactly, yeah. I got no time for being nervous anymore. I just want to do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gavin, what was it like for you? You're producing?
Yeah, so producing and directing, I discovered the script on one of my trips to the UK. In the before times, I'd often go to London once a year. It sounds so bougie. Just go to London once a year
really?
to just go and see all the shows.
Oh, how sad for you.
And I was in one of my most favourite places in the world. It's a National Theatre bookstore because it is just literal scripts.
Oh,
And
wow.
I always just want to grab a whole shelf and just dump them on me and just... but I discovered this play, 100 Words for Snow, and I took it off the shelf and bought it without even reading the blurb. And
What was it that attracted you to buy it?
just the title, 100 Words for Snow, it was intriguing. It made me think of a Kate Bush song where it's 50 words for snow, and the whole song is her and Stephen Fry saying 50 words for snow, and I thought it was brilliant. It had also been on a few weeks before I got there, so it had jogged my memory that way. And then I read it, and then I knew that I wanted to put it on. And as always happens when, as we said before, when you're working with people as an usher, you never need to conduct auditions because you've got a wealth of talent at your fingertips. And really, Eddie in this part is the only person that I wanted to work with and the only person that I saw. And often when I read a script and when I think about producing and directing, as I often do them at the same time, I can see that person on the stage and see those moments, and I imagine that person. And there was nobody else other than Eddie to work with. And I was very, very thankful. Of course, I had, backups in my head, but I was like, do you want to read this? And hoping, and thankfully, Eddie really loved the script as well. And then everything just fell into place. And my approach to it was very, very similar, but our approach was different enough as well that we could really work at different angles and present different offers that just made the work richer, because it made this one character even more complex, because there wasn't just one way to perform them.
So you tried many ways to portray that particular person on stage.
I think it was more just the different ways that the both of us maybe would approach a situation between our interpretation of Rory in that moment.
Yeah, we've had a lot of moments where I think we've been able to, through discussion, kind of surprise each other with how we've viewed certain moments in the text or certain choices. And there's been this really great balance of kind of feeling like we're on the same page, but still with a lot of that space to surprise each other. which I think is great because it means that like I've been able to throw out some of the dumbest suggestions, things that were just wrong, did not make it to the final cut, but like every time I did that, it was received with so much patience and curiosity. And you know, you can always build from that place. You can always do something with that if that's your ground level.
Absolutely. I always think that, you know, when I'm directing, I'll always appreciate and listen to an offer made, and I never like to work in a space of right and wrong. The only right and wrong that I kind of work in if something feels like it's going to come up against an OH&S type situation. If an actor is like, I want to do a trapeze, I'm like, that's wrong.
Well, there's definitely been some accent moments. I do have